Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Talking Triathlon, a triathlon podcast where Tim Ford, that's me, talks to James Bale, that's him, about the sport of triathlon. Jimbo, how you going, mate?
Oh, not too bad. It's been a while since we've done this together, eh?
It
It must be a
has.
month, give or
No.
take.
Oh, yeah, because I did one with Tyler and then you did one with
You
Andy.
did one with Tyler. I did one with Andy. Then we missed a week.
We did miss a week. That's just, firstly,
So
sorry,
this is
everybody.
this is
Sorry
the
that we
fourth
missed a
week.
week.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was,
Sorry, we missed a week. It was travel.
yeah, it was
Travel
my
got in the
fault.
way.
I got my travel dates wrong and realized that when we recorded, I was actually in Singapore still. I thought I'd be back in Australia and I didn't have any of my podcasting gear. So anyway, it means that we've got plenty more to talk about this week, mate. As you said, I have been traveling. I was over in Asia. It was in Thailand and then Singapore, and I got sick as a dog in Singapore actually. So even if I had my podcast and stuff, I don't think I would have been recorded because I was so excited about going to Singapore. I had these grand plans of all the places I was going to eat, and I spent most of it in bed. I was sick as a
Oh
dog.
no, really?
Yeah, it wasn't fun. And yeah, so it was just
But you
like
were there for the camp, weren't you?
I was in Thailand for the camp, and
Oh,
then
okay.
had a couple of days, like 2 days after the camp, to sort of unwind a little bit, and then went to Singapore for work and to do some meetings, and then obviously go and eat everywhere in Singapore because it's the best. And just like forced myself, like, go into a meeting and you're sitting there and you're like physically not well, and having to like grit your teeth and just pretend like you're fine, and going to the drugstores and getting every single thing I could that could keep me upright. And then the plane ride home was horrific, and then got home and just it's just been a shitstorm ever since then. So it's been fun,
Yeah,
but
there
that's
you
the
go.
joys of working internationally, mate. As you said, it's been a while. What about you? What's been happening? How's the training? How's everything going?
Oh, yeah, training's going well. I think I calculated the other day that in the last 13 weeks I've only missed two run sessions, which is
Awesome.
good. Apart from today. Today life got ahead of me and I just didn't have time to get it in. So that's three run sessions in 13 weeks now that I've missed. But yeah, things are moving in the right direction, mate. I'm not sick, which is nice.
I love
First time
that.
I've been able to say that for a while. And doing the training and not getting ill and not feeling injured and actually feeling like I've got some run form about me again is pleasant.
I made the decision this week to withdraw from 70.3 World Championships in Topor
Or
next
did you?
month. Yeah,
Oh no.
no, I think I mean this, and but some stuff's been happening in my life the
Yeah, yeah.
last bit, and it's just the last thing. I mean, I spoke to my coach Reese about it, and I just said, look, I'm tired, I'm sad, and even if I'm feeling better by then, I'm just not in a position. I've missed, I got sick, and then I've had this stuff going on, and so I'm just not in a position to go there and have a race I'm going to be happy with, which is going to make me even more sad. So
Yeah, yeah. I hear
uh,
that.
I've actually
And
just like,
like
yeah,
people always say, I'll just go and do it anyway, but sometimes that ain't the point, is it?
where my head is at lately, it's the actual last thing I feel like doing.
Yeah.
The last few months have been pretty horrific, to be honest, and I just need to. I mean, I just need a break. I just need a couple of weeks. I'm not the only struggle I have is because I'm very keen to take a couple of weeks off training, but I've got that trip I'd plan to obviously train a race up to 70.3 worlds and then I take 2 weeks off training a year. But so I'd actually love to do that right now. And I'm kind of in this weird spot because I've still got that trip to Europe when I'm not going to be training. So I'm not sure whether I take a break now and then start training again and then take another week off, or sort of
Mm.
force myself to train for the next few weeks. I mean, I've been a bit sick, so I can't anyway. But yeah, so I've got to work all that out. But no, I definitely need a pretty hard reset. It's been a not a great year, and but I've got a really good goal for next year. So I've picked a 70.3 in July that I'm training for. Going to make that a real priority next year. Something really good to work towards. Finally signed up for my American race, and then yeah, that's going to be the sort of major goal for the next, yeah, what are we talking, 7, 8 months? Go there and,
Cool.
and and really try to put together a race that I'm really, really proud of. Kind of, I want to approach it a bit like I approached the marathon this year, like, really just do everything I can to be there in the best possible shape and have a race that I can really sort of hang my hat on and
Yeah.
go, yeah, I'm proud of this one. So,
That's what I'm about for London Rio. My marathon training block starts on the 23rd of December. I'm still doing speed work at the moment, and
yep,
so I'm looking forward to training through Christmas.
yeah, it'll be
It's
good.
been a while since I haven't stopped completely at Christmas. I'm looking forward to having a I'm going to have an entirely dry Christmas and train my way through it. That's my plan.
Well, speaking of Christmas, and again, we haven't discussed this, but I guess we can do it on air because that's what we do. We missed our Patreon episode last month, so we will do one for this month. But uh, what we did last year over Christmas, because we will take a few weeks off the podcast, and I think we'll do the same this year. I hope you're okay with it. Is we will record special episodes just for our patrons over that period that we're off. So that will then mean extra episodes, which should then make up for the bonus episode we missed. So I think what we'll probably do is take 2 or 3 weeks off, probably from that week after 70.3 Worlds through till the new year. And then we'll just put out
Yeah.
a bonus episode for our patrons every single week. So if you're interested in that, head to patreon.com/talking triathlon. It's December soon. It can be a little Christmas gift you give to Tim and James.
And
Again,
feel free to send in some topics if you want us to discuss some specific things in triathlon. Send in some ideas because we're
I'd
always
love to do
keen
a
to.
deep dive into the T100, like my retrospective thoughts on the T100 might be one of them. And but yeah,
Yeah.
again, so if people want to keep the content going over the Christmas break and show us a little bit of support, even if you just sign up for the 1 month, that'll be the way to do it. And then that's the plan for now anyway. So if you sign up at the beginning of December, you get the whole month, and then you get all those bonus episodes that will come out until the new year. So yeah, we'll take 2 or 3 weeks off, and then we'll be back in the new year. But Jimbo, as I said, so much has happened. And I think the first and obvious place for us to start is the announcement of the retirement of one of the greatest athletes to ever do the sport, Alistair Brownlee. Announced his retirement days after the T100 Dubai performance, where I think we all thought, fuck, he's actually back. Like, how good is this? I'd sort of sworn off picking him for a podium ever again. He did well. But yeah, Alistair Brownlee announced his retirement from professional racing. And I was pretty upset, to be honest, mate.
Yeah, it took me by surprise, if I'm honest, because I thought he was dead set on competing, at least until he had really had that Ironman World Championship race that was the best he could do in that moment. And that was going to be his sort of not to go and win it per se, because I'm not saying he would have won it, but I don't feel like he's ever had that Ironman World Championship swing that has really been the one where he could say, well, this is the one where I had my best race in this moment on Kona. And I thought he was going to keep racing at least until age or injury decided he couldn't do it anymore, or he'd had that race. And then, especially after he had got himself a podium in Dubai, which we'll talk about the results in Dubai a bit later, but to see him in form on that day, getting himself on the podium, only to then find out a few days later that he was retiring from the sport. It was a bit of a double-edged sword, that one.
Yeah, no, it was I mean, firstly, it was like, I think if you had to sort of sum up, I guess, being a fan of Ali over the last, I don't know, 5 years or whatever, it has been that sort of roller coaster. And I think the T100 race in Dubai was a shining example of that, because yeah, it was a little bit all over the place. But no, I think for me with Alistair, it's been it has been a very fascinating, I suppose, career. Like, we if I had to talk about the athletes that we've spoken a lot about, not necessarily just performances, but their position and what they're doing and where they're at and things, I think Alistair would have to be right up there in terms of one of the athletes that me and you have spoken about since we've done this podcast together. And like, I feel like we probably discussed a few years ago that he should have retired earlier. And then, like, I think a lot of people sort of had that thought, like, because he was just not really doing anything, and just sort of like it felt like he was diminishing his legacy a little bit or something. And then that sort of seemed
Mm.
to, we sort of was like, put a pin in it. No, he's going to continue. We all settled into that. And then for this to happen, it was sort of like, oh, we're back here, because you're right. I sort of expected him to continue to race. And I mean, yeah, until, as you said, age or injury prevented him. Maybe there was something. Maybe there is a limiting factor that we're not aware of. Maybe, he has been exceptionally injury prone, but
Yeah, I mean, he said he's been getting sick, and he's not able to train like he used to at the level he used to be as prepared as he wants to be when he's on the start line. Those were his words. But I mean, if you look at this season, he has started every T100 race,
mm,
so it's not like he hasn't finished every single one, but it's not like injury or illness has taken him out off the start lines of those races. And so yeah, it did take me by surprise because I'd come off the T100 Dubai thinking, right, well, he's got a podium now, so next year we're going to see him truly dedicate himself to this and possibly get a win on his day. And then obviously with the Ironman World Championships thrown in there as well. So it feels it feels like something's been lost from the sport a little bit.
Mm. But yeah, yeah. I think that he has had an impact on every race that he has participated in this year, even if it hasn't
Yeah.
necessarily been from, fighting for the win or anything. But you think about he's the first athlete to get a T100 drafting penalty. He got that second T100 drafting penalty. Like he's always been in those races, and like that's one thing you'd always have to say about Alistair Brownlee is he's never just participated. There's never been well, maybe there has to say that now, but there has been far less races where Alistair Brownlee hasn't featured than there has that he has. And yeah, like I mean, I'll be honest, I know that I mean I saw we I certainly wasn't a triathlon fan the entire time that Alistair Brownlee was racing. I know that watching his 2012 London Olympic win was probably the first Olympic triathlon I ever actually watched. I was living in Norway at the time. But I know that during the pandemic, when I was recording the episodes with Macca, when we were doing the old MX podcast, so during 2020, when all the racing went away, I don't know if you remember this, mate, but we did a thing where every week or every couple, whenever we record, we'd set like homework and we'd pick a classic race to watch and then we'd discuss it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
And
forgot about that.
but I
Feels like
watched,
fucking ages ago now.
yeah, but literally, but I watched so many alley races uh during that period. And man, it just like I was actually just talking to Joe before we recorded to this morning, and we were talking about Alistair. And I was saying that like some of those races where you'd see him really put the other guys to the sword and you'd see him like absolutely screaming at people. And now that we know people who have raced or were in the peloton or in the race with him, and you hear what he was saying to them. Like I know that Tyler tells me a story about was it in the 2018 Grand Final maybe or maybe it was a racing on the Gold Coast, and there's footage of Alistair absolutely spitting venom at Tyler, and Tyler just like laughs at him, and he always tells me that he actually think Ali kind of respected him a little bit because he didn't just cave in after that happened, and like there's so many of these stories. I know that him and Jan had this, because like people probably don't realize like Alistair made Jan Frodeno irrelevant at short distance racing. Like we
Yeah.
think about how good Jan Frodeno was, the greatest of all time. I'll die on that hill. He was to me the best to do the sport. But Alistair Brown, like Jan was the Olympic gold medalist, and then Ali Brownlee made him irrelevant. That would be like Alex Yee winning in probably not because Alex has won WTCS races, but suddenly just this kid coming along and fucking smacking the shit out of Jan Frodeno constantly. And I know that that's when Alistair sort of stepped up to long distance racing, and there was this tension between them. It's because I think that Alistair was so used to whooping his ass he couldn't work out. Like Jan was his bunny, mate. Like anytime they'd race, Ali was like, I fucking got you, mate. Like I'm not worried about you. And then the roles reversed. And it must have been very difficult for Alistair Brownlee
Yeah.
to process, because if you're so used to just destroying someone, suddenly you can't do it. It must have been very, very difficult. But yeah, like when you think about Alistair, what are some of your favorite Alistair memories? Like what are some of those races that he did that you really sort of remember fondly?
Oh, I mean, his first Olympics, I think, was spectacular. And then
Non-carbon
obviously,
shoes, but don't forget non-carbon shoes. Ran
yeah,
a
yeah,
what is it, 2907 or something like that?
yeah. And then going into the Olympics that he won, I think I think watching the Olympic triathlon in 2012 was one of my favorite moments. Um, I was on my stag do of
Really?
that when that race happened, and it was quite the event. Um, but I just think that it goes beyond the racing with an athlete like him because like you say, the attitude he brings to those races and the way um he dictated the way those races played out. He made people do things that they weren't going to do or were going to do, or he made them do things in a different way, or he made people work in a certain way, or he berated people. He kind of he really steered the sport when it comes to a race victory perspective, but also his personality and putting the sport on the map. I mean, he's a household name in the UK. People
Exactly.
that don't know triathlon that I know who he is,
Mm,
but they don't have a fucking clue about the sport.
exactly. I think he's the first athlete, or at least in our generation, what do you want to call it, that truly broke through, and like I used to say this. Like Alistair Brownlee's not triathlon famous. Alistair Brownlee's famous. You know,
Yeah.
he's like a proper household name in the UK. And yeah, I mean, I also think that there's obviously the 2012 and 2016 Olympics, both of which were great. I mean, I just think about that 2012 race where it was like like the thing with Alistair is he raced the triathlon. He wasn't like an Alex Yee who was a decent swimmer, okay biker, and just dropped this killer run, or a Hayden Wild who had this, okay swim, really good bike, really good run. Alistair Brownlee swam the best, biked the best, ran the best. Like he was the best. And no disrespect to the current crop of athletes, but you look at the guys he was beating. You look at the people that he was racing shoulder to shoulder with, and like the battles that he had with Javier Gomez. You still watch some of those collections of like the best finishes in triathlon, and half of them are Alistair Brownlee versus Javier Gomez. Like it was just this golden period of athletes absolutely flogging themselves. And then I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
to his long distance racing, and I think to that 2018 70.3 World Championship between Jan, Alistair, and Javier Gomez, which to this day is the best triathlon race I've ever seen in my entire life. That
That was
run
cool, eh?
between the three of them, where Ali went off like a bull at a gate, fell apart. Javier and Jan took off. Javier starts walking. Ali runs past him. Jan runs a 106, rules him out of Kona. Like that race to me was just, and again, that's the Alistair Brownlee effect, right? You had these three guys who had battled each other at short course for years come up and do it at 70.3. It was exceptional. It was exceptional.
Yeah. Yeah, it really was. And then, but obviously, there's the moments that transcend the sport as well, like that are being bandied around at the moment. Like the time he helped carry Johnny across the line in that race, and that's a viral moment that goes further than triathlon as well.
Yeah, big time. I know that interestingly though, so Henry who won that race, that was it the 2016 Grand Final in
Yeah,
Cozumel. Every time that video gets shared, Henry cops so much online abuse for it because people going, "Oh, what a like disgraceful that you celebrate. You didn't win the race, they lost." And it's like, guys, chill out.
yeah,
That's triathlon racing. Like, it's not.
yeah, yeah.
But no, you're right. There's so many of those moments, right? And I mean, he was there at the inception of Super League. He was one of those guys who was doing the Super League races early on. He was meant to do
Meant to do
sub
the sub
seven.
seven, sub eight,
Yeah,
didn't make it. He was Joe's swimmer, wasn't he?
yeah.
But
Uh,
in his own
Doing
words, he said, "I was pretty
backstroke.
Yeah, I was pretty confident all year this was going to be my last year racing, but I wanted to get to the end of the year and really see how I felt without making a rash decision. Many factors have gone into that decision. Ultimately, it just feels right. And I know that's kind of a wishy-washy thing to say, but it does, and I'm really happy about it. It's a combination of having been doing it for a long time. There are so many things in sport I want to be able to do. I want to be able to do all kinds of endurance challenges. I'm aware I'm kind of putting miles on the clock and wearing certain things down. So I wanted to retire fit and healthy and not be forced to retire by injury or an illness or whatever,
No,
which makes sense. I mean, look, as though that we can sit here and say, look, you just got a podium at the T100 Dubai. Surely you're going to bounce into next year and just, see what you can do with next year and then go to the Ironman World Championships and see what you can do there. But in reality, only one person is in his head. Only one person knows his body and what he's feeling and how those injuries are creeping up, how the wear and tear is making him feel, how the training is making him feel, how that accumulated fatigue of however many fucking years in the sport is making him feel. And that's entirely an individual decision, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. I think that it's very easy to look on paper and say, "Oh, he's still young, he can still go." But if you actually look at the length of his career, he was at the 2008 Olympics, man.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I
like
mean. Yeah, his first Olympics was, and he made a statement there as well.
exactly. So he's had a very long career, and no, I like now it's sort of settled in. I'm like, I think it's great. I think it's an interesting year, or it's been an interesting 12 months in the sport to see all the names that have started to retire. Because we've had Jan retire last year, we've had Sebastian Kienle retire, we've had Javier Gomez in Esther retirement, Daniel Reeves retired, Alistair Brownlee's now retired. It's like, man, we're getting old. All of
Yeah,
that,
I know.
that generation of our favorite names are all packing it in and sort of giving it up. But no,
I mean, I think he's still going to do some racing, isn't he? He's not going to be doing series racing. He's not going to want to see him at the T100. You're not going to see him at the Ironman World Championships. But I think we're going to see him doing some unique challenges, some interesting
some
races
gravel
across the
races and
world,
stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
gravel racing, whatever. Yeah, I mean, you might even see him take a swing at Norseman or something like that.
That'd be cool.
You never know.
Mhm.
It would be cool. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to watching it with interest. Let's move on to that last race of his career, if you like.
T100 Dubai. Do you
T100
want to do the
Dubai.
men's or the women's?
Let's go with the. Well, we're talking about the men's, so let's talk about the men's, and then we can go to the women's after.
All right. So did you watch this race?
I have watched parts of this race. I've watched bits and pieces of the women's race. I saw one part of the women's race I was watching live as it happened. That was rather unfortunate. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it was unfortunate that she happened to pick the one camera that was streaming live in that moment. I felt a bit sorry for her, if I'm
well,
honest.
maybe that's
We've all been there, mate.
maybe that's a part to start out. I want us to talk about it a little bit and get it out of the way and move on because I saw it. I saw it live. We put the clip up on our Instagram, and then there was a few people who were unhappy about that, so we took it down. We thought it was we wise to take it down, but I didn't look at that and think this is a like I like Taylor Knibb more after that. Like I'm not. I wasn't a person going, oh, like suck shit. I actually am. I respect that, mate. Like there's something
Oh,
so
absolutely. It's
just
very pro sport.
yeah, very gritty as well. Like, and I think
Mm.
when you look at the whole what would you say, like the scenario around it, winning race for the world title, right, 200 grand on the line, literally doing anything, the mantra of triathlon, I thought it was fantastic. And what I find the only thing I do want to say about this is because I know that, members of her team reached out to other podcasts who'd shared things on their social, asking them to take it down, saying, and I feel like the only sort of thing I want to say is this sport sometimes is too small and there's too much there's not enough distance sometimes between people trying to cover the sport and then the people doing the sport and everybody's a little bit too familiar because like to think you can just reach out to me, oh look, please take it down, like, which is fine, but that thing went fucking viral, mate, and good luck contacting all the channels that like Unilad and stuff that have got millions of followers that put that, like, good luck asking them to take it down because the person doesn't really like it. Like I just found that very interesting. It sort of was a bit of a like reminder that yeah, this sport is very small sometimes, and there is maybe not enough distance between the media, not the web media, but like yeah, it just I don't know that. Do you know what I mean by that? Like there was something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think so. I know exactly what you mean. I think in our position where we are, I think when someone reaches out, it's sensible
Didn't
to
reach out to us,
because the
just by the way.
sports.
Didn't reach out to us,
Yeah.
but reached out to others.
No,
So
no, but the sport is such a small ecosystem that, I know what you mean though. There isn't that distance. There isn't that kind of, well, you know what? I felt sorry for her because she did pick a camera that was streaming live in that moment. She was probably just trying to give the cameraman some information, and it was unfortunate that the live stream was on that camera at that time. But absolutely nothing to be. I can understand her being embarrassed. Totally, I would be. But there's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of.
yeah,
This is pro sport. You were leading the grand final of the T100, about to go and win the world championship, win that championship. Like, you've got nothing to be ashamed of. You were giving it everything, and we've all been there. Anybody who is in this endurance world and has competed in any kind of racing knows exactly what that fucking feeling feels like, especially if you're wearing a white trisuit at the time. Hey.
let's talk about the racing itself. Like we've got that out of the way. Let's talk about the racing because before we talk about the specifics of the race, I want to say this is the best race the T100 put on this year. I thought that the racing was
Yeah,
excellent.
I agree.
I thought the coverage was the best it's been. They really utilized split screens, like, and I guess with the way just the racing unfolded. Like to me, I've people who listen will probably not be surprised to hear that I've been a little bit up and down on the T100 this year. I've sort of been a little bit underwhelmed. This filled me with confidence for next year. Like I felt like finally we're starting to hit our stride. Like there's still problems. Like I still think that it doesn't look great when there's no spectators on course. There's a lack of brand. Like there's those things are still a thing, right? But this felt to me like a huge step in the right direction. And again, let's give them the credit that this is their first time doing this. There's always going to be growing pains. Is it perfect? No. Is it on the way there? I think so. And I felt like this was a real, both men's and women's races. I think this is the best job they've done with them. And so a very good way to sort of end the season on that high. But the race in itself, mate, tell me what happened in the women's race.
Yeah, I mean, it was unfolding as we were expecting to begin with Taylor Knibb leading. But Ashley Gentle started reeling her back in on the run,
Mm.
and all the calculations were being done, you know, and it was looking like it was going to happen as per. Taylor was going to be out the front, but then the calculations were saying, well, Ash is gonna Ash is going to catch her. Ash is going to catch her. Ash is going to catch her until she wasn't going to catch her anymore because suddenly those calculations started showing that her pace was dropping substantially. She came out of T2 like a rocket and really did take some time out of Taylor's lead, but couldn't hold it.
Well, that was it. I mean, that's sort of, I guess, the beauty of longer distance racing, right? Is you have that is she going to actually be able to hold on? Has she gone too
Mm.
hard? Because you're right, it looked like she was it from all accounts, it looked like that gap was going to come down quite comfortably. And then, Ash looked so comfortable, and it looked like we were finally going to see that role reversal where because the gap wasn't that big off the bike, to be honest. I think it's probably the smallest gap off the
No.
bike we've seen compared to other rate. What was it like? 3 minutes, two and a half, 2 minutes 50.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't
The
huge,
technical nature of the bike course was blunting
which we know,
Taylor's
yeah,
ability
correct.
to put the distance into them.
That's what we've seen a lot, right? Like even in was it San Francisco or Ibiza, one of them where yeah, I think it was Ibiza, where through the technical sections, India Lee would not lose time to Taylor, or maybe pull a little bit of time back. But the second they get on those long straights, Taylor would just put fucking minutes into them.
Mm.
Uh, so I think we definitely saw that. But it did really lend itself to a scenario where we were going to see an exciting race. And not only did we see an exciting race between Taylor and Ibn Gentle, we then add in who I think has been the best wild card this season, Julie Darren,
Absolutely.
who then runs through and what comes second? Did she finish second in the end?
Second place, yeah.
Yeah.
The final
Like,
standings were Taylor Knibb in first, Julie Darren in second, and Ashley Gentle in third, with Flora Duffy in fourth, which
yeah,
is banging.
banging. Like it was just from that point of view, I thought it was really, really excellent. So overall, the racing was just really, really great. And like I said, just nothing but respect to Taylor Knibb. That's a T100 world title, which is an official world triathlon sanctioned world title. It's not like another made up one like Ironman or the championship or anything like this. Is
Yeah.
a
And
ratified,
Ashley Gentle, when she came out of the run, she needed to beat Taylor, but also for Julie Darren to beat Taylor as well.
which was never going to happen.
So when she went past her, there was this, she was dropping Julie to begin with, but there was this kind of, you need her to come with you because if you can't just rule her out the race here, you need her to be with you because if you've got a chance at this title, you need her to be in front of Taylor. Obviously Ash went pop and Julie went past her a bit further down the road. Sarah Prasala did the fastest swim. Taylor Knibb did the fastest bike. And it was Flora Duffy with the fastest run by some
Wow.
considerable margin, 103.32 to bring herself up to fourth place.
That's incredible. So it feels like things are starting to fall into place for Flora because again, if you think of the Olympics
Yeah.
even with Flora, that swim bike where she was at the front by miles and she sort of came apart on the run. So her run seems to be coming together, which again gives you a lot of optimism for next season, right? Because
Yeah,
Flora
yeah.
is one of those
Her
athletes that
bike was quite a lot slower than others. It wasn't ridiculously slow, but she was 3.5 minutes behind those that were ahead of her on the bike, apart from
okay.
Taylor, who was fucking miles ahead of everybody.
Yeah, so it ended up really good. So have you got the overall season standings? How did the T100 series wrap up? Do you have
I
that
do. On the
information?
women's side, Taylor Knibb took the championship ahead of Ashley Gentle, ahead of Julie Darren, Kat Matthews, Flora Duffy, Lucy Byram, Laura Phillip, and then on and on. Taylor Knibb 106 points to Ashley Gentle's 132 to Julie Darren's 101, which is, like you say, remarkable for where Julie came into the series.
Well, the other interesting thing that I'm just trying to bring it up as we speak because we also know that how the T100 system functions is the top 10 ranked athletes will automatically earn a contract for next year. And I was quite surprised to see who are some of the athletes who won't be on the T100 contracts guaranteed list next year. Because if you look at it, let me bring it up. The top 10, Taylor Knibb, Ash Gentle, Julie Darren, Kat Matthews, Flora Duffy, Lucy Byram, Laura Phillip, India Lee, Imogen Simmons, Paula Finlay. Those 10 automatic
Yeah.
contracts for next year. Whether they take them, I'm curious if we'll see Laura Phillip take a contract again after this year, but I'd expect to see the others all there. But it's when you get to the names that aren't guaranteed a contract for next year that you start to go, wow. So Taylor Spivey, I think considering she, did the Olympics and this is her first couple of shots at a middle distance race, pretty good showing. But then you got Lucy Charles-Barclay, no contract for next year. Anne Haug, no contract for next year. Tamara Jewett, no contract for next year. Emma Pallant-Brown, no contract for next year. Uh, Kada Kivioja, sorry, that is one name I'm not going to be able to pronounce. She was a wild card, doesn't matter. Amelia Watkinson, 17th place, no contract. Then you've got Holly Lawrence, who had a child, but there's Marjolaine Pierre, no contract.
But doesn't the
Chelsea
rest of it?
Sodaro, like I mean, Sky's had a baby, but Chelsea Sodaro also no contract.
But those top 10 get an automatic contract, and then
Yeah, so
doesn't
some of
it
those
then
will, yeah,
defer back to the ranked PTO rankings?
correct. So some of them will still potentially get one, but I just think it's
Yeah,
interesting to see. Like I said, there's some names on that sort of out of contract or out of guaranteed contract that are quite fascinating. So it'll be. I'm very happy to see that we're going to have Julie Darren get a contract next year. She's been one of the best additions to the series.
agreed,
Uh,
agreed.
but yeah, women's race was awesome. A great, sort of overall thing. I
It
mean,
was. I really enjoyed watching it. It felt like a race, you know.
yeah,
It felt like, especially on that run, like who's who. I was convinced that Ash was gonna catch her and pass her. I
same.
was giving Andy so much shit because he told me otherwise.
Well, let's talk about the men's race then, because as good as the women's race was, we also had a very, very good men's race. We have another T100 world champion in Marten van Riel. We saw a brave outfit choice by Kyle Smith, and we saw Alistair Brownlee sneak his way onto that podium despite a little
Yeah, yeah.
tumble in the closing meters of the run. Uh, Mate, similar to the women's race, fucking brilliant. Like it was great.
It really was. It really was. And it did all come down to that final run, didn't it? Um, Martin Van Riel. It was Martin Van Riel, Rico Bogan, and Carl Smith who were away together,
Yeah.
racing shoulder to shoulder. And and I think how far did they have to go when Van Riel took off?
It was pretty early. I think it was maybe like 5 or 6 kilometers into, again, I'm guessing, right? It's weeks ago. But it
I
was it
think it
was
was a bit
it
I
was
think it was a bit late than that.
was it? But
Yeah, I don't think it wasn't low
at
numbers,
some
but
point into the run.
at some point into the run, Martin Van Riel took off, yeah, and he really did. He when he put the hammer down, he went and took that victory himself, and it was well deserved, very well deserved, because the man has been the like you say before, the chosen one for the T100 racing this year, and if anybody deserved this victory in that championship, it was him.
Definitely.
Um,
But yeah, I
then you had
think
Rico Bogan and Carl Smith, and Carl Smith started to slip backwards. And then it all came down to whether Alistair Brownlee was going to be able to catch and pass him. And Brownlee was working his way up through the field, or had been working his way up through the field. He was almost on the back of Carl Smith when he rounded a dead turn and slipped on his Adidas carbon plated Uber cushion monstrosities and almost went down. I mean that he was lucky not to get away without rolling an ankle and perhaps doing some tendon damage or small fracture or something because those shoes when they go like that they do really bend your ankles.
mm,
But he got back up, chased him down, and took third place behind Rico Bogan. Rico fucking Bogan, mate.
he's my MVP for the season. Not necessarily, I
Yeah,
mean,
agreed.
Martin Van Riel obviously won it, but if I had to pick one athlete that I want in the races this year, it's Rico Bogan. And we've said it a lot, but like similar to what we were talking about with Alistair Brownlee earlier, like he makes an impact on every race that he participates in. And he just has that. I just love the way he conducts himself. I really, for a kid that young, because we forget how young he is, he changes or impacts every single race that he's a front pack swimmer and he just commits. He just gives it absolutely everything and he'll either hold on or he'll blow to pieces. And watching Kyle Martin and Rico together at the start of the run, I thought, fucking hell, we're gonna have a Las Vegas 2.0 here. Like I definitely got that excitement as I saw the three of them going together. There was a moment after Alistair had passed Kyle, and it does probably speak a little bit about the fact that we all just don't really trust the splits that much because there was a shot where you could see Rico running down like a sort of longer stretch of run, and Alistair was in the background. And I remember thinking, fucking hell, Alistair could get second place here. No way he could. It was like 50 seconds behind within a kilometer. Ain't gonna happen. But there was that cool moment of like, shit, could this actually happen? Uh, Man, it was just again, Martin did his thing, and then it was sort of became quite apparent quite quickly after that happened that it was Martin's win. But then, as we said, those races and those battles that were happening back further in the field, and the way that the season sort of relies on those points for the big money, it made it really, really interesting. And yeah, it was great. Really, really, really good performances. Um, Carl Smith ran a white
Sam Long
trisuit.
struggled a bit, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I
Did you
do
see
want
his
to.
interview at the end?
I do want to give. I actually messaged Sam after that, and I said to him like, mate, like respect, because I think that showing that sort of vulnerability isn't easy, and it shows how much it means to him. And I
Yeah,
think I said
totally.
to him, Sam, like that's the athlete Sam is. Sam wears his heart on his sleeve, and I mean, personally, I think that it's important to talk about the struggles that you have as much as you talk about the success. Uh, I also want to on that because there's another Sam that I think deserves a fuck ton of praise, and that's Sam Laidlow. What he did in the commentary team, and like even the way he
Yeah.
conducted himself with that interview with Sam at the end, I I am increasingly becoming a Sam Laidlow fan almost every time I see him do something this year. Like he's doing yeah, what he did at that race in terms of the broadcast stuff was exceptional. Really, really, he added such a great dynamic to it. But no, Sam Long as well, just credit to him. I think that it's, considering that he is the sort of big, brash, loud American to then turn around and show that sort of vulnerability. Really respect that. And yeah, I'm a huge Sam Long fan. So well done, Sam.
Yeah, totally. Totally. So the final standings after the grand final in Dubai. Martin Van Riel takes the series ahead of Carl Smith, ahead of Rico Bogan, Magnus Ditlev, Alistair Brownlee, Sam Long, Matthias Magier, Peter Heimerich, Yuri Kulin, Frederick Funk. That's the top 10 who will get automatic qualifying slots for next year. Martin Van Riel finished the series on 153 points ahead of Carl Smith's 111 and Rico Bogan's 102, with Magnus Ditlev on 100. And Alistair Brownlee in his final race, finishing his final season with the T100 on 96 points in fifth place. This is why I'm surprised he's retiring, mate. The man is fifth in the standings. He's ninth in the PTO rankings. It's a surprise to me. It really is.
Well, I mean, looking at those top three athletes, firstly, Martin a mile ahead of everyone, but I think the top three is correct. That's the three best athletes in terms of the T100 series this year. But then, similar to what I just went through with the women's race, now we know those top. I mean, obviously, we have to remove Alistair Brownlee, so you probably go down to 11, which changed because the athletes that aren't in that top 10, Sam Laidlow, Mika Newt, Jason West, Justus Nischlag, Daniel Beckergaard, Aaron Royal, Rudy Von Berg, Jelle Gaines, Leon Chevalier, Clement Mignon, Josh Amberger, Ben Canute, Bradley Weiss, Max Newman, Javier. I mean, Javier's retired, but like, there's so many of those contracted athletes that they're not going to like. Again, it makes me quite interested and excited to see who ends up with those contracts for next year because are they still going to do 20? There's more races. Are they going to widen the field? Are they going to offer more contracts? What are they going to do? And yeah, I'm quite keen to see it. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, ideally, and I'm sure in the PTO's world, the more control they have over who's racing and who doesn't, that's where they want to get to, isn't it? They want to get to a point where they've got a captive bunch of athletes and they've got control over who does and doesn't race, and people stop just dropping out at the last minute and deciding not to race this, and then we're going to race in that.
it's interesting, and not that I want to dive into it too much, but just I guess an addendum to that while we're on it. I just before we hit record saw an article that Tried 24/7 to put up where Christian and Gustav had announced their sort of race plans for next year, and they're focusing on the Ironman Pro Series, not on the T100, because I guess there'd been a lot of discussion. Are they going to try to get a T100 contract? And I mean, the reasoning seems to be at least that with the increased races, because we now know there's that race in France has now been confirmed. There's a race. We've all seen the announcement about a race in, is it Vancouver or somewhere in Canada? Like there's more 200 races coming. And I assume they're going to probably expect the athletes to race more than just the 4 or 6, whatever it was this year. And Christian basically said, if you want to do well in Nice, the frequency of those 200 races means you're probably not going to be able to, because you're not going to be able to dedicate time to a proper build for Nice. And that's where we want to get to, right? We want to see athletes committing to one or the other. And
Yeah.
so I'm very like, and I respect Christian Gustav for saying, no, no, we want to pursue the Ironman Pro Series. And then you're going to have other athletes like Alistair did this year. No, no, I want to pursue the T100 series. So I'm all for that. I really do want to see a bit more focus. And I hope the T100 are a bit stricter with their contracts this time. I hope they do really sort of twist the screws a little bit and say, no, no, we're paying
Yeah.
you. None of this bullshit. None of this fucking going to some other race. Not saying it's too cold to swim in the water and then rock it up and do it in age group 70.3 the week later. Like none of that anymore. So yeah, I'm very fascinated to see the approach they're going to take to dealing with those athletes for next year, and the way those contracts work, and how many races and stuff there is. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
I'm doing that French race next year.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
In a
It's
white
gonna be
trash
good.
suit. We'll have to get you an even better one this time. Maybe we'll get the nipples cut
No,
out or
no.
something. The aerodynamics.
Get some tassels on it.
Butt
Some
cheeks.
tassels.
We'll get the arse cheeks cut out on the back, and we'll get the nipples
Yeah,
cut out on
yeah.
the front.
Arseless chaps, mate. That's what I
Yes,
should race in.
exactly. Well, south of France, I'm sure
Yeah.
there's a market for it.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem.
Anyway, T100. Congratulations, guys. Like I said, first season done. Was it perfect? No. Was it great? Yeah. And I think there was certainly enough little highlights or, really great little moments throughout it. Like the main thing is the racing was mostly good. There was the women's race, and I think got the tailored a little bit in the sense that she was just so much stronger than everybody else. But no, overall, I think it was, it was some of my favorite racing moments this year happened in T100 events. Some of my least favorite moments happened in T100. I will never forget that Miami race in the dark with no sound.
Oh yeah. Ha ha ha. Remember that. That was brilliant. That was fucking
Oh,
brilliant.
that was this year.
The
Like,
group chat was fun that day.
fucking hell, that was this year, mate. How is that?
Yeah.
I did
It
notice that
feels like a long time ago. You could
Miami's not on
honestly,
the
you
list
could tell
next
me that
year.
was last year and I'd believe you.
Yeah, same. Not on the start list. There's no Miami race next year. I wonder why.
Yeah. Yeah.
What should we
But
move on to,
then
mate?
the champion, the winner of Dubai and the champion on the men's side then went to race Cozumel, didn't he? And it didn't quite the the Midas touch ran out a little bit for the man in Cozumel.
Well, interestingly, I did see he put up a post and led up to it, like pick his finish time. And I think I put like 1 second under Magnus's challenge Roth time from this year. Was it 7:23:23? I think is what I put. And it sounds like it was sort of on track to be a pretty decent race from Marten Van Riel
Yeah.
until he hit
Until
a
in
pedestrian.
his own words, he said, after 175 kilometers on the bike, I lost control of my bike on a cat's eye or a hole in the road and swerved into the side where a little girl was supporting the race. Unfortunately, I hit her at 50 kilometers an hour and crashed very hard. Luckily, the girl had her family there and she looked relatively okay, except for a cut on her finger. The ambulance was quickly there and provided first aid for both of us. Later, the police also came to take a report. After the race, I got brought to the hospital to get my elbows stitched and do some x-rays. Cozumel only has one hospital, so the girl was there too. I was able to talk with her and give her my finishing medal and t-shirt. Her mum told me that every year she watches the race, and I really hope this won't change that. So yeah, really unfortunate incident for him. Absolute just human error, lost control of his bike, and sounds like all's well that ends well. It could have been a hell of a lot worse.
Yeah, I think credit to him again. So he got back on the bike and he ended up finishing the race. I think he ran a 2:39 marathon, to be honest. But the 20 minutes that he spent on the side wasn't because he had to. It's because he was asked to wait for the police, and he did everything. Like I think that, again, no surprise. I'm a huge Martin Van Riel fan, but I think this just
Yeah,
shows the way that he
he's
conducted himself
he's a
is
legend. He's such
just,
a nice guy.
yeah. I was very upset
And
to hear.
we know that in that moment, his mind wouldn't have been on the race. It would have been on making sure that little girl was okay.
I also got reports. So one of our roving reporters of Talking Triathlon, Fernanda de la Vega, who many people will call the triathlon stalker. She was on the ground there and she was giving me some information. And she was saying that 9 of the pros' swim bags were stolen. And I know that there was another guy, Nick Chase, who said that he got into transition and one of the other pros had taken his swim to run bike bag and had to bring it back and lost his bike. Like, so it sounds like it was a little bit of a schmozzle. Uh,
It was, I mean, I've had people reaching out to me online, one specific who an age grouper who got her a bike taken out of transition randomly. And so when she got to transition, having finished the swim, her bike was missing and she went and saw the official. And the official was like, "Oh yeah, well, that athlete is sick, so they're not racing." And they'd taken the number next to, they were meant to take 158 or something, and they took 157. So they took and taken the 158 was sick, and so they'd said they'd get their bike out of transition for them, but they'd taken the wrong bike. So this athlete got her race completely ruined.
what would you, man, imagine if that, I would absolutely lose my
Yeah,
shit
exactly.
if that happened.
And it's human error. In that moment, the referee or whoever took the wrong number. So it's human error. It ain't an Iron Man thing. It ain't like, you ain't jumping on anybody for this. It's just the guy was
It's not a
mortified apparently.
not a great
But it would,
conspiracy about the 35 to 39 age group.
yeah, for me, it would derail my race in that moment. I would be the 20 minutes I spent trying to get my fucking bike back. I
Mm.
would be like, well, I'm done now. What's the point in this? This is all fucked.
That stuff that was brought up about the 35 to 39 age group race in
Yeah,
Kona.
I didn't bother reading it all.
Our WhatsApp group brought it up again, and I just like I obviously had missed it because I don't know how. Who gives a single fuck? Honestly,
Yeah.
who gives a shit about what happens in the? I saw. I'm like, how is this a thing? Why are we discuss? What is happening right now? Why are we discussing this? This is nothing. and then I saw the post that was about it, and then they suddenly bring in the doping of some other athlete. I was like, what the fuck is this? Is nope, absolutely just what the fuck? Are we just bored as a
Yeah.
sport? Are we so desperate to
That
talk
yeah,
about
that
something?
that's weird. But I think the it does sound like it was a bit of a logistical clusterfuck on the ground in Cozumel with bits and pieces being moved and things being taken and just bad decisions being made and lots of human error all over the place, which wasn't ideal.
Have you got the results there? Because I believe we saw a certain gentleman who has had a podium finish in Kona before win another Ironman for the first time in a while.
Yeah, so Bart Arnott's won the race on the men's side with Chris Lefferman in second and Leon Chevier in third. On the women's side, it was Anne Reichman in first place, Lisa Perretier in second, and Justine Mathieu from France in third.
Man, I thought you were good with the French. Really happy to see
Ah,
Bart Arnott's back on the top of a race. Like, as I said, he's podiumed in Kona before, I think. I think he's podiumed in
yeah,
Kona. Um,
yeah.
but he's sort of gone, he's been quiet for a few years. So get that race. And again, that's a legitimate field, Leon Chevalier, Martin Van Riel, Chris Lefferman, like, big names. So
Oh,
really, really
totally,
great to see him walk away with that victory.
totally. I mean, it was unfortunate for Martin Ramriel. His the time he spent by sitting by the side of the road. I mean, it's very unfortunate for him. But to add my two pennies into the discussion I saw happening in the WhatsApp group the
Yeah,
other day
let's have
about
that
whether
discussion. Yeah,
he
let's bring
should
it
be
up.
given that knee slot. Fuck no.
Yeah.
Fuck no. Race incidents happen. Just because he doesn't get given a slot to Nice because he spent 20 minutes though. He lost control of his bike. I love him. Martin Ramriel, you're a hero. You're a great bloke. It's got a lot of time for you. But you lost control of your bike. You sat by the side of the road. You don't get that time deducted off and then coulda, shoulda, woulda, coulda situation.
Yeah,
Now,
I
don't get
agree
me
with
wrong.
that.
There might be other reasons that Ironman might give you a slot for Nice at some point in the near future, or at some point next year. They might, if you're doing really well and you're a name and they want you there, they might do that. But it ain't going to be off the back of this.
It just shows me a little bit about the inconsistency people seem to have about giving out these wild cards. Some people like, no, absolutely not. Then it's somebody they're like, no, they should. And I think that, yeah, I just think a blanket no, earn them or not. And because again, like you talk about it, right? Mechanical incident or crash, spends 20 minutes on the side of the road, runs himself. What did he finish? Fifth, fourth, fifth?
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh, sixth, wasn't it? Seventh.
there's plenty of other athletes who've had issues that have, again, I'm not
Yeah.
just saying this because it's just top of mind. Joe in Wales, 20 minutes on the side of the road, still came back, won the race. Like there's still a pathway to victory or whatever. It's Ironman. Anything's possible. But no, I think Martin, I don't think Martin probably expected the slot either. I think it's
No,
something
of
he'd
course he doesn't.
like to
He's
earn.
not petitioning for it.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't want to put my thoughts into that. What's that? I wanted to save it for the pod
No,
because I just
it's a
think
legitimate discussion.
it happens.
I really just think that I think and the problem is, right, it's because of what happened this year with Sam getting given the ratification for that race where he was disqualified. This is the problem, right? Is once you
Yeah,
start, I mean,
Pandora's box is open.
I'll give you a very simple little example, right? I was at a kids triathlon event in Thailand on the last day of the camp. Addendum, or just a little side note. What the fuck is wrong with parents? I had two different parents lose their shit at the kids that I was with volunteering and at myself because the finisher medals weren't good enough. Outrageous. Fucking outrageous. Anyway, but one of the kids came up and he'd been given a
Totally.
finisher medal and he's like, "Can I have another one?" And I was like, "I don't give a shit. Yeah, here you go. Have another one." Well, he then instantly ran off to all his friends, said, I got given a second finisher medal. So suddenly this fucking group of like 10 kids comes up saying, I want to finish a medal. I want to finish a medal. I'm like, what the fuck is, I said to the kids, hide it, mate. Otherwise I'm taking it off you. Like, what have you done to me? And the reason I tell that story is because once you start to do little exceptions and make discretionary decisions around things like slots and wild cards and entries for world championships, suddenly everybody's going to start expecting it. And I
Yeah.
think that up until at least last year, it seemed that we sort of knew that unless you were an Olympic gold medalist, you ain't getting a wild card for, or 70.3 world champion for Kona. You ain't getting a slot unless you've earned it. There is now just suddenly there's this little stone in the shoe that's annoying enough that you might be able to say, well, actually, they gave one to Sam Laidlow last year because technically he met the and it's sudden, like, do you know what? Now we're starting to have these discussions about, well, should he get given a wild? And then the next time would be something. Should they be given? And that's the problem. Up until last year, at least it felt to me, or early this year, very hard line in the sand. This is what you need to do to get a world champs. We are in a situation now where I can understand people asking the question because they are starting to be a bit flexible.
Can I have a finisher's medal?
I'll give you, mate, I've got a shelf of them just there. So fancy parents getting the shits about finish. Like one of them was a teacher and started screaming at a 16-year-old kid. Look, it's like, mate, you need to pick a different career. And then some other woman had a go at me. And I was like, I said, oh, I guess the main thing is that the kids had fun. And she's like, I don't like your attitude. I said, oh, I'm really sorry. I was definitely giving attitude, but like, I'm so sorry to hear that you are dissatisfied with the response that I'm giving you. Like, God, you're
Yeah.
stupid.
It's strange having with children who are school age at the moment, going to sports day and various sporting events, the way some parents are with their children is remarkable.
Some people, yeah,
Remarkable.
I'm not going to say that.
Like
Uh, let's
you are
let's
putting your toxic parenting.
They were all British, by the way, James. All these parents that were kicking off were British, by the way. So just a bit of a
Doesn't
reflection.
surprise me. Doesn't
Yes.
surprise me. There you go. My coach was racing. He raced the Laguna Tri
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you were over there. I
That's
sent him a
cool.
picture of you and said, "If you see that guy,
I wasn't
say
there.
this to him."
I didn't show up at all.
Did you not?
I did not make an appearance whatsoever. I went for a bike ride the morning of the race, and I got back after the race had finished, and then I went out for a lovely lunch with my wife and family to celebrate Dez's birthday, and yep, did not participate in any way, shape, or form in the Laguna Phuket Triathlon,
There
which
you go.
was quite nice. So,
I thought you
Jimbo,
were racing.
so again, the original plan was to race,
Mm.
and I think that I've done it the last 2 years. So that camp, people don't know, I do these junior camps for high performance athletes. They take it out of me, mate. Like we actually made a deal this year that we're not. That's why you recorded with Andy because I knew I wouldn't have time to do it. And the last 2 years, I've done the race the day after the camp ends. And last year, I really focused. I trained specifically for it. Went to Thailand a week early to acclimate. Thought I'll take the camp week as a taper, so I'll be really fresh for the race. Feeling really good. Dived into the water race day and went, I've made a huge mistake. I was so tired. So the last 2 years I've done it and I've just been really, really tired. And I just didn't want to do it this year. So I just made the decision. I mean, I probably should have now considered now not racing 70.3 worlds, but no. I just needed to, like I said, I'm just tired, man. I just need to, I think I feel like a lot of the other, like, everybody seems to be calling it a season quite early this year. I'm doing it as well. So yeah, I didn't end up racing, but it's a great race if anybody ever wants to go and do it. I highly recommend the Laguna Phuket Trail. One of the hardest races on the planet. Truly horrific. The climb's like this steep and it's hot as fuck, but it's a good race. Where should we finish?
Well, we got Bahrain, haven't we?
We
Tomorrow,
do.
the day the podcast is coming out is the day of the
It'll be
Bahrain
happening.
70.
It will be happening when the episode was released. So there
It
you
will
go.
indeed. So we've got a load of athletes out there. Georgia Taylor Brown is making a 70.3 debut. Vince Louis is also racing. He said he wants to go for the fastest time ever. So be interesting to see if he can do that.
Well, I saw that there's a wind warning for Bahrain, saying that if you're riding a deep dish wheel to maybe not use the aero bars. So good luck, Vince, because 2 years ago, the last time I did that race, there was also really, really high wind. And I felt like an absolute king going out. I think I averaged like close to 47K an hour on the first 45
Yeah.
kilometers. And coming back, I averaged 40K an hour overall for that ride. So you can have an idea of how much slower
Yeah, yeah. The year that we did it, the way back in
was perfect.
was the bomb, wasn't it? We had a
Mm.
tailwind. I was
I was going
absolutely
55K
rinsing.
an hour, just going boom. Couldn't
Yeah,
pedal. Like
that was
I'd run
my
out of gears. My legs were basically just spinning.
yeah, yeah. That was
Yeah.
my fastest 70.3 bike split
Yeah, I think I rode
of
a
all time.
20,
Loved
206 or
it.
something that year. It was good. Um,
Yeah.
but yes, anyway, Bahrain 70.3. I want to talk about Georgia Taylor Brown because it's her first 70.3. It's what we talk about when we start to see these athletes post Olympics start to transition to middle distance. While I still think Georgia Taylor Brown has a lot of ability at the short course, we saw her win the Super League Series, Super Tri Series this year. I feel like this is a really natural fit. Like you look at those athletes, and I feel like, what I normally look for, I think when I look at the short course athletes that I think will do well at middle distance is a certain robustness or a sort of bit more of a strength based athlete. And I think that when I think of Georgia Taylor Brown, that's her. Like if this was Beth Potter, I think I'd be a bit more cautious or curious about how she'd perform. Whereas you say Georgia Taylor Brown, much like the same with Katie Zafira, as I've said in the past, or for Duffy, um, this seems to me like a really good fit, and I'm very, very, very excited to see what Georgia Taylor Brown does at this 70.3 this today.
Yeah. Be interesting, because it's a fast bike course. Sometimes it can be a little bit short, but not that short.
It's-
And and it's fast, but it's also, you know, depending on her ability and skills on a TT bike, if the wind does get up for the wrong direction, it can be quite challenging. So I think how she is with her bike handling skills will dictate a lot how she does in this race. We both know she's a hell of an athlete. Um, she's certainly she's got all of the bits you need to win a race like this or do really well or podium or have a really strong finish. I think that conditions on the day will make a real difference as to how we see her perform.
Well, that's because you're right. I think probably the first and last section of the bikes, probably 20, 30K, maybe 40K total, roughly, is on quite a it's on a highway and the lanes are open. It's like you're on the inside lane of the highway, so the outside lanes have got traffic. So there's a bit of a break. But once you get down off that highway, you're in the desert, man. Like it is
Yeah.
exposed. You are open to the elements. So that's definitely going to be a factor. And then that F1 track ain't fast. It's surprisingly undulating. The surface is
Yeah, so and because it's made for F1 cars, it's a bit sticky
yeah, very.
because
I was going to say
they've got the power to sort of, and they want that perfectly flat surface, but they need a bit of traction. Whereas when you're on a bike, I felt like the road was stickier than I
yeah,
needed it to be.
definitely. I was going to say it felt quite slow. But yeah, I'm super super keen to see Georgia race. Vince, it's Vince versus Henry. Again, I actually really like that dynamic because they're both good swimmers. Uh, I don't know. I hope that they both really push each other. We saw Henry finish just behind Martin last year, so I
Mm.
expect it to actually be quite a close race. Yeah, I'm looking. I really am looking forward to this race. They do manage. Your boy Rasmus is there. Hopefully he's
Rasmus
gonna,
is there, yeah.
hopefully he'll make a bit of an impact if they can all jump on the Rasmus train. I think we could potentially see, especially if the winds are favorable, we could see a really really fast time happen there today. So yeah, really really
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
forward to that race. It's a good event, man. I actually really like. It's one of my
I do
favorite
as well.
races.
I
So well
would go and do
organized.
it again at
You know,
some
it's
point, I
moved. It's
think.
not. It's not hosted it's where we did it, which was a little bit further north. They moved the swim and the transition down, like maybe a kilometer further
Okay.
south. It's still great. It's not quite as polished, but it's still a really good venue, great location. There's just a little bit extra stuff to do on the bike to get out on the bike course, but and the run course is just a fucking. You're just like back and you're just seeing
Yeah,
each
the
other
run course is
constantly.
not fun. It's
Yeah.
it's not a fun run course that. But I did enjoy it as an event, and depending on how next year goes, because I've got what have I got? I've got a half marathon, full marathon, London, and then uh I'm doing the French Fréjus T100, then I'm doing Alpe d'Huez, and then I'm going to do a couple of ultras. And if the next year goes well and I still remain injury and illness free, I'll probably go back and do Bahrain the year after, I think.
I think I'd like to do it next year because I got yeah, Oregon 70.3 in July, and then that's it at the moment. So yeah, we'll see. But mate, I think we're pretty much done for this week. We're doing pretty well for time. So
Yeah, next time we talk, it'll be the 70.3 Worlds we're getting ready for, isn't it?
correct. So if people want to find out more about you, about me, about what we're doing, all that stuff, where do they need to go?
I can't remember. Bear
Actually,
with me. It's loading.
if you want to find out
Yeah.
more,
If you want to find out, if you want to support this show, jump on at patreon.com/talking triathlon. If you want to follow Tim, he's at T414 on Instagram, and I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram. We are on one social network, and that is Instagram, and it is at Talking Triathlon. We're not on Twitter because it's a fucking cesspit. You
deleted
want to
it.
join the Patreon group? You'll get access to the monthly bonus episodes and the social group. We'll put you in the WhatsApp group, and the WhatsApp group is what sustains my interest in triathlon. It's a really vibrant and interesting place to be.
It certainly is. And as I said, so just again to reiterate, the plan will be we'll do a bonus episode in the next week for this month. And then because we missed last month, over Christmas, we will probably do 3 or 4 bonus episodes that will come out every single week because there will not be regular episodes. So basically from the week, so what are we talking? The last episode will probably come out on the 20th of December. And then we will take 3 weeks off. So we'll come back the first week, second week of January is when we'll start recording again. So for those 3 weeks that we take off, we will put up a bonus episode every week so that you'll get 3 extra. So basically, if you're a patron, the content won't stop.
No.
If you're a regular listener,
No, no. And you know what it's like at Christmas. Christmas is fun. You spend time with your family, you spend time with your mates, but there are moments where you're like, fuck, I wish there was a triathlon podcast I could listen to, and this will sustain you.
exactly. So if you want to do that, head to patreon.com/talking triathlon. I say this every single week. Please head to the YouTube channel, subscribe to us, like the videos. If you have thoughts, give them to us there. Let us know your thoughts about the T100 series this year. Tell us your favorite Alistair Brownlee moment. Also, if there's time codes, so if you're watching right now and you've gone this far, there's time codes on the episode on YouTube, so you can jump around to different points of the episode. But Jimbo, other than that, mate, we are done for this week. Thank you very much. I will talk to you next week. Cheerio.
Cheerio.
I stole your line then.
You did, yeah.
See you,
That's
mate.
my goodbye.
Bye.